Are you afraid of making mistakes? Are you afraid that if you take an action forward, you will fuck everything up? So you're staying in the same place. In other words, you're staying stagnant and stagnated because you're just not sure what's going to happen if you take action. In other words, you're not trusting yourself to the fullest extent. Maybe you are searching out fortune tellers. Maybe you're seeking out therapists. Maybe you are waiting to have a phone call with a friend or family member before you make a decision. Maybe they're little decisions that you know add up to those greater, bigger decisions that really impact your life. Or maybe they are the big decisions. Maybe you feel paralyzed with going back and forth and logically making lists of the pros and the cons. And ironically, when you are so focused on safeguarding yourself and not making a mistake, that's when you are more likely to detach and become unattuned from your own intuition. As long as you are attuned to and listening to your intuition, it is impossible to make a mistake. You may be thinking, excuse me, I have definitely made mistakes before when I thought it was the right thing to do. But I'd like to reframe what it means in the first place to make a mistake. So let's say that you make a choice and it's totally illogical, but you decide to go ahead and do it anyway. There's something telling you, like, is this bad judgment? Like, I don't know. Is this something that is unnecessary? But I feel like I have to go to that event, or I feel like I have to leave this event. Or maybe you are focused on all of the past mistakes, and maybe you define a mistake as something that you did that got a negative outcome through your point of view. What if I told you that those are not necessarily divine mistakes? The only divine mistake you can make is if you don't listen to your intuition. Your intuition is guiding you from a higher source, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in a higher power. This is going on the premise that such a thing does exist, that it's not just what you see is what you get in this life, in this reality. What if you disallowed making mistakes that are divine, meaning that you give much more weight to those inklings and those subtle whispers to keep your life on track? Maybe a part of your life path is that you experience hard times. Maybe a part of your life path is knowing contrast. If you've experienced something that feels really low, what if you knew that energy is not inherently positive or negative? So if you're open to the full range, know that it can swing in the other direction in your favor. I was talking with a new friend the other day. We were on a walk, and she talked about early successes when she was a teenager, getting into all of these advanced placement courses and acing them and having a 4.6 GPA and being invited to very prestigious events and speaking on stages and undeniably feeling like, ooh, it's possible that I could really go places, and others agreeing. And then in adult life, hitting some bumps in the road financially, relationship wise, career wise. And we were having this conversation around what gives. How is it that I had such promising beginnings and now I'm here? And what I said is, you've already been at the tippy top of your game and you can absolutely get there again. I reminded her of the determination that she took, where she was focused on, okay, I'm in school, I'm doing my schoolwork to the best of my ability, and just allowing her to be led by what lit her up. And at the time, it was all of those things. Here's what can happen when we have successes. Sometimes we become less focused on the process and more focused on the outcome. And maybe we don't like the attention, maybe we don't like the outcome, or maybe we really like it and we become dependent on it when it's actually not sustainable to receive such high level of praise. Certainly, there are certain celebrities or royalty that may get a lot of praise a lot of the time, but deep down, we know when it's kind of bullshit. When we're being praised because someone knows that we are of social value and they could get something from us. So again, this is an invitation to be attuned to that intuitive impulse. And if you find yourself looking back at all of the things that you apparently have done wrong, I'd like to invite you to do two things. First, trust that if there was something guiding you to make that choice, that's one thing. Or if you know that you went against your better judgment, and not just your better judgment, but what you felt like was a higher calling, that's also a part of your journey and your learning. When I think about a higher power, I don't think of them as being punitive. I don't think of it as a prison. I think of it more like a school where it's like, okay, growth mindset, let's go ahead and make other choices because that's where our power is. When we don't get stuck in cycles that we got ourselves into in the first place. But then there may be guilt and shame at being in a downward spiral or a certain cycle. When I'd like to invite you to certainly be reflective, but there's a point when reflection turns rumination and it's not only not productive, but it's essentially sucking away your soul's essence. And I would like that to be unacceptable to you, where you want to be fully present, fully vibrant, and fully accepting of the mistakes that you made in the past. Because who knows, maybe that will actually be a story that you can tell later on. You'll be in a situation where you can make a different choice and have a different experience. Because oftentimes in this life, we experience patterns until we effectively learn the lesson. In short, I would like to encourage you to look at the lens of not being afraid to make any mistake. Perfection doesn't exist, by the way, to release the need to keep those mistakes far and far, far, far away from you. And instead, accept that you will make choices. You will sit with yourself, take a deep breath, and say, okay, this feels right to me. Some people have an intuitive nudge in the moment. Others, it takes a few days where they get a knowing in a dream or when they spontaneously wake up or after a walk. So having that sense of patience with yourself that when you know, you know. But when we get confused and when we don't know what the right choice is, that's when we're not attuning to our inner knowing, inner power. So if you have been in a pattern of asking people for help and sitting on decision making because you're trusting someone else's judgment more than yours, just know that that can backfire. Just a healthy warning that even someone who is the most insightful, they're not you. They may be attuned to certain parts of your life journey, but there are some choices, and I would even argue all choices, where you have the ability to act independently. And it's not totally independent because your intuition is attuning to a higher power. And if you have the intuitive nudge, love versus fear-based, you're not like, oh, I'm so afraid. Let, my cousin make me feel better. It's less about that. And it's more about if you get an impulse, oh, interesting. My cousin's face just popped into my head and I'm about to make this choice. Maybe I'll just call them up. And maybe you don't even talk about the issue, but maybe you have a conversation and it brings something to light that helps you make that choice that you needed to make. My wish for you is that you release this fear of being wrong and know that every choice you made has been right for you, which can feel radical. Just having that acceptance and moving forward and knowing, okay, with this newfound awareness, you have the power to make choices that have your life in even greater alignment than ever before, where your destiny is unfolding in real time right now, and it will continue to do so. And if things are destined for you, if they are meant for you, you will experience them. And I want you to trust that. Wishing you a beautifully connected day where you are doing exactly what is right for you and your soul path. Until next time.